Okay, I'm going to open up with a question. How the fuck do you score 35 points while still registering a negative 30? Negative 30. I had to check two different sources for this statistic just to believe it myself. As much as I hate LeBron James, I was like, a negative 30? That's gotta be like a record. So I checked ESPN.com and then I cross-referenced with NBA.com and their stats are the same. For those of you unfamiliar with the plus minus ranking column of statistics, that shows how the team did when that particular player was on the floor versus that player being on the bench. When LeBron was on the floor, he registered a negative 30. Let me throw a couple of other stats at you. LeBron also had 3 turnovers while Westbrook had 0. A little bonus stat I've got to throw in here, I should have included it originally. He ended the game with 4 fouls. That's after he got the refs to rescind 1 foul call. Who gets refs to change a foul call? Oh yeah, LeBron. And after they didn't call him for his typical offensive fouls, and chose not to call a T when he did this dirty shit. The little bitch should have been on the bench. And considering that the Lakers started to come back once he did sit on the bench, maybe he should have been on the bench the whole game and the Lakers might have won. Now, of course, the only thing that people who have stock in LeBron James enterprises, such as Shannon Sharp, Nick Wright, Jay Will, had to say was how the team let down LeBron. What more can LeBron do?
Nobody showed up with LeBron. Skip, I don't really know what else LeBron can do, Skip.
He could not register a fucking negative 30. How about that for helping out the team? How about not registering a fucking negative 30 when you're on the floor? But he scored 35 points. So we've got some explaining to do, don't we? Well, if you looked at any of my videos, you'd see that LeBron doesn't do a fucking thing when he's on the floor except for wait for his teammates to dish him an easy basket. A lot of times he's just hanging out around the perimeter. That is, when he manages to get across half court at all, which is a surprisingly few number of times considering that he's supposed to be the GOAT and a leader. Instead, he's a mopey motherfucker that doesn't even get across half court to help his team. But in any case, when he is hanging around the perimeter, nobody seems to give a shit on the other team. He barely gets guarded. I don't care if he does start improving with his three-point shooting. He's not drawing the defense. A negative 30. A negative 30. This leads to another topic of some of my videos, and that's that LeBron is costing his team with his points. And when he has really big scoring nights, they usually lose. Not every single time. Don't point at 1 or 2 occasions where he has a big scoring night and they win. The vast majority of the time, when LeBron James has his big scoring night, and that's all that you hear in the media, the team loses. That's not leadership. That's not doing what your team needs for a win. And as long as people like Shannon Sharp are out there helping you be brainwashed, you're never going to wake up to the fact that LeBron is hurting his team while stat padding. There's nothing impressive about what this guy is doing. Well, how dare I say that about LeBron James? Look at how many points he's averaging. Okay, how about this? Let's look at yesterday's leaders. Remember, this is not me with some freaking psycho bullshit that I'm making up about LeBron James. This is on the NBA.com website. Yesterday's leaders: points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, turnovers, three-pointers made, free throws made, fantasy points. Okay, so for yesterday, LeBron shows up in one of those. One of those. The GOAT shows up in one of those. And of course, you already know which one it is. It's the points. 35 points in a loss where he registered a negative 30. Well, let's not just look at yesterday. That's not fair, is it? Oh, is it not? Because LeBron James was all over the headlines because of his 35 shitty points that cost his team. But let's look at the season. So, points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, steals per game, field goal percentage, three-pointers made, three-point percentage, fantasy points. Okay, LeBron, again, points per game. And then fantasy points. I don't play fantasy. I don't even know what that means. to think that LeBron James is the GOAT is a fantasy. So LeBron James is not even the season leader in points per game, which is the only category you can even start to talk GOAT shit. And the fact that he's only in one category should be enough for a reasonable human being to understand that he's not in a GOAT category at all. One category. And when he has his big nights, it costs his team. One category. When Michael Jordan in his early days was scoring so many points, and people were like, wow, he's incredible. We've never seen anything like him. But the Bulls are still losing. He wasn't showing up in only one fucking category. He wasn't just stat padding. The motherfucker was a terror on the court. He wasn't only in one category while they were losing. He had legitimately terrible teams that he was single-handedly trying to carry. And don't you dare say that LeBron did that. Don't you fucking dare, you goddamn brainwashed idiots. One fucking category. That lazy fucking cunt. And if we took away his offensive fouls and free throws, he never has the right shooting in the first place. He'd be one of the lowest scoring people to ever get mentioned in media. In addition to the fact that LeBron James's high scoring nights usually lead to the Lakers losing, let's also look at the other leading scorers from yesterday, who were not all over the media. LeBron James wasn't even number one, for starters. The other thing is, to score that many points was at one time quite a unique achievement. Now it's normal, and the fact that LeBron James did it just makes him another NBA player, not like something we've never seen before. But perhaps more importantly was the impact on the team of those top scorers. For example, Karl Anthony Towns, who was the top scorer of everyone, including the so-called GOAT yesterday, who had 40 points. Well, he plays for Minnesota, and his team won. Fred VanVleet also got a top 5 spot, and his team, the Toronto Raptors, won. Anthony Simmons, Portland Trailblazers, also a top 5 spot scorer from yesterday. His team won. The only other team that didn't win with a top scorer was Terrence Ross of Orlando, and they lost by 2 points. LeBron James lost by 28, not 2. The only other top scorer that lost yesterday only lost by 2. LeBron, the GOAT James, lost by 28. How does any GOAT ever let their team lose by 28 at this point in their career when they're supposed to be a leader? You don't let your team lose by 28. LeBron, the GOAT James, is putting up garbage points while he loses. He's not a rookie. He's not in his second, third, fourth, or fifth year. Fucking be a leader, you goddamn loser. And it's the only category he has is points per game. And it's not special, and they're not winning. Now, if I'm going to talk this much trash about how LeBron James's big points are costing the Lakers, I better show you some statistics, right? Now, these are the statistics that true analysts should be showing you, but instead we have a world of commentators, analysts, TV broadcasters who are told what they're allowed to say and that they need to push a certain package and that they will get in trouble if they don't say that. And then you have people like Shannon Sharp who just plain seem to have stock in LeBron James Enterprises and will lie in any way that they can to make that fucking loser seem better than he is. But anyway, back to the stats. So let's rewind like 11 games, which would take us back to the Chicago LA game. And what we're going to do is look at how LA as a team has fared in these last 11 games versus how LeBron has fared in these last 11 games. So Chicago, LeBron scores 31, gets headlines. The Lakers lost. Phoenix, LeBron scores 34, headlines. The Lakers lost. 36 against San Antonio. LeBron, headlines. Lakers lose. How the hell do you lose to San Antonio right now? LeBron, 39 against Brooklyn. The Lakers lost. 32 points against the lowly Houston Rockets. Good job, LeBron. Your team won. But note, 32 is the lower end of the, oh my God, big scoring night. If we go to the next game, 37. Another loss against Memphis. So, LeBron, what else can he do for his team? He's scoring all these points. James has 37 and loses to Memphis. They win against Portland the next night. LeBron has a big game with 43 points. So there you go. You got one anomaly here, except for the 32-point night so far. Otherwise, the Lakers are losing while LeBron is getting headlines with these big wins. And then against Minnesota, James finally acts like a team player, 26 points, and they managed to beat Minnesota. Against Sacramento, he keeps it down to 31. They beat the Kings. 32 points against Atlanta. They managed to get a win there. Memphis, he's back up to 35 points, and the Lakers lose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6 out of the last 11 games, when LeBron is scoring big, the Lakers lose. Why are you excited about that? Why, if you're a Laker fan, are you excited about that? Shouldn't a GOAT, especially at this stage in his career, be doing what is necessary for the team's overall success rather than stat padding and costing them? Now, just a second. As long as we're talking about these games, there's a couple more stats I better throw in there that are kind of interesting. Looking at his particularly big other scoring nights when he got 37 against Memphis, he was a 0. He was a 0 in the plus or minus category and had 5 turnovers. Looks like he needed Dwight Howard and Malik Monk to save him that game. And remember when I was trying to understand how they could lose to the Spurs? Well, he got 36 that night and was a negative 23. Holy crap. But this even applies to wins. When he had the big night, the 43 points, well, he got a plus 18, but that's not good compared to the rest of his team. We've got a plus 25, a plus 29, a plus 18, a plus 28. So LeBron James tied as the least effective member of the team on the court in that win when he got his 43 points at the cost of everyone else. And in addition to that, you've got to remember that being someone who scores 35 points only gets you in the top 5 in these days. And the number of people in the NBA who score 30 points for their team on a nightly basis is not something special. It's routine. LeBron James is routine and losing, and yet being heralded in the media. That's why I say you are being brainwashed.